Greetings, fellow humans. I'm MartianBuu, and today we're going to talk about the Wailing Caverns mini set. Normally, I like to take my time and talk about how all of these cards could possibly be used, but because all the cards were revealed today and the mini set comes out tomorrow, I don't have the time to make that video, and you don't have the time to watch that video. So I'm actually going to bust through this as fast as possible. We'll skip over the ones that I don't think will actually impact Wild without too much commentary. First, we have Sigil of Summoning, 2 mana for at the start of your turn, summon 2/2/2 demons with taunt. I feel like an early aggro demon hunter might appreciate this, but nothing like that exists in Wild right now, and this doesn't cost odd amounts of mana, so it's probably going to be a long time before Wild considers this card. 8 mana 8/8 Taunt Demon, Taint Heart Tormentor. Your opponent's spells cost 2 more. So this is Unraveler, but only for your opponent, which is really cool. The problem is going to be getting this in play. If you can get this in play and have it die, it makes Nuzoth really good. The one that summons one of each tribe. So if this is your only demon, having this out when you play the Nuzoth is going to be really good because your opponent is going to have a harder time interacting with the giant board you've just made. You can play the 4 mana 4/4 that makes demons cheaper to get this out easier. The 6 mana card with Death Rattle, summon a demon from your hand, I don't think is going to be very good, but this is interesting. If you can find a time to play an 8/8 taunt at some point during your game, Nuzoth gets really, really good with this. Maybe in standard. Fell Rattler, 3 mana 3/2 Rush Beast. Death Rattle, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So this is like Swipe but sooner. It can't go face, but as far as removal is concerned, this is a 1 mana discount on Swipe. You can use the Death Rattle Demon Hunter cheater cards to get this out earlier. Seems like it might be good in standard. I don't know that Odd Demon Hunter would ever want this, but Undertaker is looking for friends, and maybe this is good enough. 3 mana 4/3 Fangbound Druid, Taunt, Death Rattle, reduce the cost of a beast in your hand by 2. In Wild, when a minion costs 4 or less, you have to ask yourself, is this card good enough off of Oaken Summons, or is it good enough to cut Oaken Summons? And I think that that's not the case either way for this. The other thing is, like, I don't know what beasts you actually want to discount, so, like, could you play this early to get your Threshers and your Twilight Runners a little bit cheaper so that you can benefit from them before you play Guardian Animals? I don't think in Wild. Lady Anacondra, 6 mana 3/7, your nature spells cost 2 less. So you play Celestial Alignment, and then your Nourish and your Lightning Bloom and your Innervate, which all cost 1 before, now cost 0. I feel like this is a win more card. When my opponents play Celestial Alignment and I don't kill them, they usually kill me. So I don't think that Celestial Alignment needs this. It's good, like Omu and Kun are good for that deck, but it already has those cards. Does it really need to run one more of them when it already does lethal damage? I don't think this has any potential to see play outside of Celestial Alignment, and I'm not sure that Celestial Alignment actually wants this, so we'll see. Deviate Dreadfang, 8 mana 4/9 Beast. After you cast a nature spell, summon a 4/2 Viper with Rush. This costs way too much for Wild. Onto Hunter, Serpent Bloom, 0 mana, give a friendly beast poisonous. So you can run this with Dreadscale, and then you have your 3 mana board clear. You give the Dreadscale poisonous, and then it clears the board at the end of every turn. This is kind of like Ice Fishing, the Ice Fishing Flurgle Toxfin combo for Shaman. The big difference being you can play Toxfin and Flurgle in the same turn, even if your opponent's played Loatheb. And there is no Ice Fishing that tutors your Serpent Bloom and Dreadscale. Hunter doesn't really want that type of effect. The effect isn't nearly as good as some of the other combos in other classes. I don't see it making any impact. Cinderai Scentfinder, 4 mana 1/6 Frenzy, summon 4 1/1 Hyenas with Rush. This is a 4 mana 1/6 the turn you play it, and then your opponent decides whether or not it goes off on their turn. I don't see it happening. 4 mana 1/2 Poisonous Weapon, Venom Strike Bow. So this reminds me of Envenom Weapon in Rogue. Rogue gets to do this a turn earlier, so they dagger on 2, and then they Envenom Weapon on 3. Later it costs 5, or it still costs 3 because of preparation. I don't think that if Envenom Weapon never saw play, that Venom Strike Bow would see play. Rogue and Hunter have very similar strategies in that they're aggressive classes that don't have much healing. If Envenom Weapon wasn't good enough for Rogue, I don't think that a maybe worse, maybe better version of that is good enough for Hunter. First up for Mage, we have Shattering Blast, 3 mana Frost Spell, destroy all frozen minions. The thing about destroying frozen minions, we've had like efficient ways to kill frozen minions before and they don't see any play. is because once you've frozen a minion, you've dealt with that minion. I would say that this sees no play, but maybe in the archetype we're about to talk about. Flowcaster, 6 mana 5/5, costs 2 less for each frozen enemy. This card I think is really interesting. So you play Varden, freezes the enemy board. You play Frost Nova, freezes the enemy board, and then you get to cast this for free. So if you look at the Dungeoneer, 3 mana 2/3, Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a Frost spell, summon 2 1/1 elementals that freeze. This is a 3 mana 4/5 that goes in a deck that doesn't want it. So like, if you're running Mizaki, for example, you're running a ton of free spells to buy you time, but you don't want a 3 mana 4/5. You just want to like draw your Mizaki and kill your opponent. But if you have a Frost Nova Varden Flowcaster deck, you're tempo freeze. So you can like run Ray of Frost, run Sorcerer's Apprentice, run Frostweave Dungeoneer, and the Flowcaster. You just tempo them to death. I don't know. That sounds just way too fair for Wild, but I think it's interesting. If you could keep your spell count down to just Ray of Frost, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, Frost Nova, and have a tempo freeze deck, that could be interesting. I think this is the thing that I'm the most excited to play with on day one, but I don't expect it to be very good. First up for Paladin, we have Sea Cloud Buckler, 3 mana 2/3 weapon, Death Rattle, give your minions Divine Shield. In Wild, I mostly see this in Odd Paladin, and Odd Paladin already has one card give all of your recruits Divine Shield for the rest of the game. I think there are better ways to do Divine Shield in Wild. This just doesn't have a home. Libram of Justice, 1 mana secret. When an enemy minion attacks, set its attack and health to 1. Holy. This doesn't seem nuts to me just because your opponent has like patches or they can play Broom or something and test for this first. But I do think it's good. It's better than Reckoning, and Reckoning almost makes the cut. People are playing it in Standard, and sometimes it pops up in Wild here and there. Unlike Reckoning, which requires the damage to be done, this prevents the damage. When the giant attacks you and then dies with Reckoning, they have dealt 8 damage with the giant, whereas it wouldn't with Judgment of Justice. So this is interesting. I don't know that it's good enough for anything in Wild, especially because it's a holy spell. If you play Knight of Anointment to tutor Conviction, then you get Judgment of Justice instead, you're sad. Party Up, 7 mana, summon 5 2/2 adventurers with random bonus effects. It's a 7 mana 10/10, and then it has a bunch of good keywords, so it's almost good enough on paper, but I think it's a standard card. I don't think that a Wild deck would ever play this. Devout Dungeoneer, 3 mana 2/3, Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's holy, reduce its cost by 2. A year ago, when Priest didn't have Power Word Shield and Insight yet, I'd have thought that this card was good enough to just go right into Raza Priest, just because 3 mana 2/3, draw a spell is good enough for that deck. But it's become so much more efficient in the past year. I don't see Devout Dungeoneer having a spot in that deck anymore. And that's me thinking about it without even considering the cost reduction, because Raza Priest does not play holy spells. It runs like Smite and Penance and Power Word Shield and Wave of Apathy to interact with Dark Lair. So like sometimes you can get a 1 mana discount, maybe a 2 if you hit exactly Penance, but most of Raza Priest's good spells are actually shadow spells. I can't imagine another home for this. I just don't see it. Against the Odds, 5 mana, holy spell, destroy all odd attack minions. This is bad, by the way. First, this is bad because in Wild, we can already Apathy, Shadow Word, Horror. So that's the same combo with this, but 1 mana cheaper. Maybe Wave of Apathy and this is good enough for Standard. That remains to be seen. It's probably something that's going to happen because these cards will be discovered. But I don't know that you deliberately put it in your deck, because Against All Odds is not good enough on its own. It's going to kill like half of your opponent's minions, and if they're giants, they don't die. What they could have done is even the odds, and then you could have chosen between destroy all even attack or destroy all odd attack. My chat came up with that today. I think that would have been more interesting. It would have been like a cool card. You could have used it to kill giants reliably in Wild alongside, like Ankle Biter and Dark Lair and stuff like that. But this, I think, is a boring card that won't see any play in either format. Cleric of Anshi, 1 mana 1/2, Battlecry. If you restored health this turn, discover a spell from your deck. So this is a better version of the other one, right? In Raza Priest, this is also 3 mana. You heal your face, and then you play this card on 3. So it's -1/-1 stats, but you get to discover the card, and you can play it later alongside like Spirit Lash and stuff. So you can go Penance, play this, Spirit Lash, play this. It's free if you've already played Raza, which I don't think is going to be that relevant. But there is a lot of healing to be done. On 7, you go Reno, you play this. So I think that there are going to be a lot of ways to kind of fit this into the curve, and maybe it's good enough. But there's a chance it doesn't make the cut at all. It is a situational draw card. It's a 1-mana card that you can't play on 1. This has a higher chance to make the Raza Priest list than the Dungeoneer does, but I still think it's questionable whether it makes it in at all. Water Moccasin, 3-mana 2/5 Beast, Stealth, has Poisonous while you have no other minions. This seems good enough for the Stealth package in Standard, maybe, but probably not Wild. Shroud of Concealment, 3-mana Shadow spell, draw 2 minions, any play this turn gains Stealth for a turn. So I think if you're going to play this, it has to be good enough in the absence of Stealth, because it is going to be much later in the game when you can play the minions that you draw off of this in the same turn. You can, on turn 4, do Prep, Shroud of Concealment, Edwin, or the 3-mana Battlecry Auctioneer guy, and have that be good with Stealth, but that's pretty situational, and in turn 4 is actually kind of late for something like that in Wild. Reno Rogue has been brought up to me. Maybe Reno Rogue wants this because they don't get to run doubles of Swindle and Secret Passage and stuff like that. Maybe. Savory Deviate Delight, 1 mana, transform a minion in both players' hand into a pirate or a stealth minion. So, an aggressive rogue deck likes pirates and likes stealth minions. So if an aggressive rogue deck wanted to have some hand disruption, this is actually pretty solid because the minion you're going to get is relevant to your game plan. The problem is, aggressive rogue decks don't want hand disruption. They just want to kill their opponent right now. So it's a good hand disruption effect for a deck that doesn't want it. Primal Dungeoneer, 3-mana 2/3 Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a nature spell, also draw an elemental. So I think this is good for aggro shaman and also control shaman. All of the good shaman spells are nature. So like Devolve and Maelstrom Portal and Serpent Shrine Portal, Crackle, the one that buffs your board by +1/+1, Torrent, Hagatha Scheme. You don't actually have to adjust your spell count much to make this always draw 2. And all of those decks have elementals they want to play anyway. Reno Shaman has Zephyrus and Lilypad Elemental. Grumble. Aggro Shaman has Surging Tempest and Cage Match Custodian, this new elemental we're about to look at. I think this is going to be 3-mana 2/3, draw 2 cards for almost no drawback in any Shaman deck you want to play. Perpetual Flame, 1 mana, deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion, fire spell. If it dies, recast this, overload 1. So your opponent plays N'Zoth's First Mate, Double Brigand, and Patches. On your turn, you Tunnel Trog, coin Perpetual Flames, kill their whole board, and then your Tunnel Trog has 5 attack. And because you're overloading 4 into your turn 2, it doesn't really matter. You skip turn 2. You were skipping that anyway if you were ever overloading. I think that this is situationally very good and maybe sees no play at all, but it could combo in a cute way with Tunnel Trog. Wailing Vapor, 1 mana, 1/3 elemental. After you play an elemental, gain +1 attack. So Wailing Vapor on 1, Firefly on 2, and then this is a 1 mana 3/3. You could also go Surging Tempest or Cage Match Custodian to tutor your weapon. I think that this is the elemental that an aggro elemental shaman deck needed. This is a good card. Warlock, 2 mana, Unstable Shadow Blast. Deal 6 damage to a minion. Excess damage hits your hero, Shadow Spell. So you look at this and you think Dark Lair. This is Spirit Bomb for Dark Lair, but slightly worse, mild upside. It costing twice the much as Spirit Bomb, which is the 1 mana shuttle spell that deals 4 to a minion and to your hero. This costing twice as much hurts. The fact that Spirit Bomb costs 1 mana is a large part of the reason it gets played. The nice part about this is it does allow you to deal 1 more damage to yourself. If you're trying to accelerate to Molten Giants, if you're hitting a 1 health thing, you take 5. It hits a bigger thing, so like it'll kill something that has 6 health instead of just something that has 4. But it also, later on in the game, when you don't want to take damage anymore, if you hit a big thing with it, you don't take as much damage. Spirit Bomb always deals 4 to you. I don't think that the regular version of Dark Lair would play this, but the Zephyrus version might, because it already goes down to 1 Shadow Bomb anyway. And I think that this is better than Crystallizer. Crystallizer, I just think is terrible, so this might be good enough. Final Grasp, 1 mana Shadow Spell, deal 1 damage to a minion. If it dies, summon a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect. So this is Blood to Ichor, which is a warrior card that Warrior got a long time ago, but slightly better, I think, because this allows you to kill the minion, whereas Blood to Acre required the minion to survive to get the 2/2. So you get to kill your opponent's 1 health minion, and then you get a 2/2 with a keyword. I think that this would be really good in a zoo deck, but I don't think a zoo deck is happening in Wild. Maybe if one happens in Standard, to see some play in it. Stealer of Souls, 4 mana, 2/6 demon. After you draw a card, change its cost to health instead of mana. There's a link to my Twitter in the description. If you want to click on it, you can see a deck that I came up with that has this. This card is possibly nuts. You play this on 6, and then you plot twist, shuffling your hand into your deck and drawing a new set of cards that all cost health instead of mana. If you got Violet Illusionist or Mal'Ganis, you pay 3 to 9 mana to play one of those in play, and then you're immune during your turn. So now all of the other cards in your hand cost no mana, no downside. So you play Backfire, you play Valdris Felgorge, you plot twist again, you keep drawing your whole deck. Then you play Mecha'thun for free and Cataclysm and win the game. Or you play Old Malagos and Soulfire Netherbreath your opponent to death. Or you Treachery Major Domo, Siphon Soul, and New Alexstrasza kill your opponent. You can also just Lotheb's Giant. There's a lot of stuff you can do with Stealer of Souls that just wins you the game. Man at Arms, 2 mana, 2/3. If you have a weapon equipped, gain +1/+1. This is not a pirate, but Pirate Warrior could almost consider this. You N'Zoth's First Mate on 1, and then you play this on 2, and you have a Totem Golem that doesn't overload you. I think that's a little too honest for Wild these days, but if this came out a year ago, I'd probably stop playing that deck. Whetstone Hatchet, 1 mana, 1/4. After your hero attacks, give a minion in your hand +1 attack. This was meant to go with the card we just talked about, I assume. A little too weak for Wild, I'd say. Kresh, Lord of Turtling, 6 mana, 3/9 beast. Frenzy, gain 8 armor. Death Rattle, equip a 2/5 Turtle Spike. If this had Taunt instead of the Death Rattle, it would be really cool with Sourfang. This is a minion with a large amount of health and Death Rattle. So its attack isn't threatening enough that you'd want to kill it right now, and it's not actually blocking your opponent from killing you. I could see this being really good with N'Zoth and Sourfang and stuff like that. I could also see this being completely forgettable. The old N'Zoth also resummons this. I could be super undervaluing this, but it seems like a slow card to me, like a really slow card. Slow for control. I don't think that this sees playing Wild. Devouring Ectoplasm, 3 mana, 3/2. Death Rattle, summon a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect. This is like a slightly better Piloted Shredder. Obviously, it goes well with the Demon Hunter board that summons a Death Rattle that costs 3 or less from your hand. I could almost see it if Undertaker, Odd Hunter ever actually happens. I could almost see this making the cut, but currently I see no place to put this in Wild. Selfless Sidekick, equip a random weapon from your deck, 7 mana, 6/6. So this discounts Woe Cleaver, Rune Spear, and Silver Sword. Woe Cleaver would be good, but you don't want to have Selfless Sidekick in a big warrior deck because then you gather your party, get Selfless Sidekick, and you're sad. Rune Spear isn't a good card, so you don't really want to do that. And then Silver Sword is actually kind of interesting. You play it a turn early, and you have at least 1 minion to buff by attacking immediately, so that's kind of cool. The problem is, this costs 7, that costs 8. You can't play it in Odd Paladin or an Even Paladin, and it's way too late for Call to Arms Aggro Paladin. So I have trouble seeing this in Wild from that standpoint. What I think is interesting about Standard is Bogspine Knuckles. So you play this, you play Bogspine Knuckles, and then you get an 8-cost minion alongside buffed minions elsewhere on the board. Might not be good enough, but that's what I think will probably be the strongest use of this card. Meeting Stone, 1 mana, 0/2. At the end of your turn, add a 2/2 Adventurer with a random bonus effect to your hand. When I look at this, I think Call to Arms, getting Righteous Protector, and Noyotron protecting it. But then why aren't you protecting like a Knife Juggler or something instead? You know, like there's just more powerful things you can get off of your Call to Arms than this. I do think it's interesting. Like if you're going first, you play this on 1, and then you will get a 2/2 because it's at the end of your turn, and then you always have a turn 2 play. And sometimes your opponent doesn't have a way to deal 2 damage on turn 1, so you get to double dip on the card advantage. Is it good enough? I don't know. If it is, it's probably in Standard. Archdruid Narlax, 3 mana, 3/3, dormant for 2 turns. While dormant, add a dream card to your hand at the end of your turn. The dream cards are pretty good. I think this is the best dream card producer because it costs 6 less than the other 2. This you can play on 3, and then you kind of get some card advantage over the next couple of turns, and then you also get a 3/3. I think that this card is kind of fair, but not that bad. I could see it getting played in like Odd Warrior, for example. Finally, we have Mutinous the Devourer, 7 mana, 4/4 Murloc, Battlecry, eat a minion in your opponent's hand, gain its stats. You look at this and you think, Dirty Rat. So this is a way to interact with your opponent's combo cards. If your opponent is playing like Mazaki, you can eat the Mazaki, or if they're playing like Raza Priest, you can eat their Raza. The thing is, they've already played those cards and killed you with them by the time that this card is relevant. It is like against aggro, it's a 7 mana, 4/4 plus stats, no rush, no taunt, no nothing. They might not even have a hand left to devour, and then they just kill you. It's a slow card. It's gonna hit a 1/1 as often as it hits your opponent's combo piece when you play it to ruin their combo. I think it's unreliable. I don't think that Odd Warrior even wants this. Odd Warrior is the deck where I initially thought this would see the most play, just because they can't run Dirty Rat and they really, really want to. Maybe they play this. But LPG is the deck that I think it has the most possibility to see play in, just because they can play high cost cards anyway. And this allows them to move the deck in a direction where they're not actually trying to kill you with their bonuses, they're trying to deprive you of your resources. So they're bouncing, in addition to just Loatheb chains, they bounce Mutanus, the Devourer chain, and they're ruining your card advantage. So instead of like disrupting your combo, if you're a combo deck, it's like control mirrors. You start getting rid of their resources so that they actually can't compete on board anymore. If you get this to cost 1 and then you Bran, play this, Potion of Illusion, play this, they've lost 4 cards out of their hand, and that's devastating in a control mirror. And if you move the deck in that direction, that allows you to cut all the dragons so that you can run the Talon Tortollan Pilgrim combo. If Tortollan Pilgrim is the most expensive minion in your deck, then Talon tutors that for you, which can then tutor your LPG. And then you use Cloud Prince, Loatheb, Mutanus as your ways to kind of end the game. I think it's interesting. I don't know that it's going to be that great. There is also the Warlock Murloc, the Sea Devil. It's a 4 mana 4/2. Your next Murloc costs health instead of mana. So you can Sea Devil on 4, play this thing. That corrupts your Ticketus in hand, and you can play Ticketus Corrupted on curve. That is only cute. That is not good. A lot of people are saying that this is too slow for Wild, and they are probably right, but the effect on it is very powerful, and sometimes slow-seeming effects end up being powerful after all. And that covers everything. Thank you for stopping by the review. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited to see in the set, and thank you for watching.